Hi there, I'm Richard Hill, the host of eCom 1, and welcome to episode 164. In this episode, I speak with Ben Gorman, content writer, copy editor, and consultant, SEO copywriter and messaging specialist with a seasoned background in research and creative writing. Cracking episode, this one. I met Ben out at an SEO conference several months ago, and I just knew when I met him I had to get him on the podcast. We cover all things AI and content, embracing AI the right way, and some very, very experienced tips on how to use AI in your content strategy. What's the biggest issues Ben sees right now in using ChatGPT? Ben's proven tips for implementing AI as part of your content strategy and your specific strategy. And Ben steps us through successful content strategies over the last 6 months that have worked well and the very, very surprising results from some of those strategies. And of course, so much more in this episode. If you enjoy this episode, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening to this episode, so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. Well, welcome to the podcast, Ben. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. Well, the semi-last time I saw Ben was on a rooftop terrace in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, which is not how I normally start many other podcasts, but that's how we met. And we then spoke a few times over at a conference, and I've talked about conferences a lot on the podcast, in the benefits of going to them and put yourself out there and meeting a lot of brilliant people. Well, Ben is one of those people that I met at a conference, 7-8 months ago. So I think it'd be great, Ben, for you to introduce yourself and tell our listeners how you got into the world of content, copy, and the e-commerce.
Sure, I would love to. Yeah, I studied marketing at university, which now was quite a few years ago. And I initially, like many people in digital marketing, I moved abroad and became an English teacher. And after a few years, I wanted to pivot and do something different, so I started writing content. I've always been into writing stories, telling stories, and I also wanted to travel and start my own business. So this was an amazing opportunity to do all of those things. And now I've been writing content for over 10 years. I write for a number of large companies, such as Norton, the web security company. I do a lot of crowdfunding content, and I consult for a number of businesses, helping them with their messaging strategy.
So that's quite a deep experience, and shout out to a lot of nice firms there. So why did you really decide to go with content writing as a career out of all the sort of different marketing functions out there?
Well, I think I sort of had a passion for writing, and with my background as well in teaching. And I, teaching a foreign language or English as a foreign language, and I also learned a foreign language. Communication and learning the intricacies of communication was something that was also very interesting to me. And I think that works really well when you pivot into content marketing. Also, I'm very much a I'm very much a words person and not a numbers person. And so the numbers and analytics side and SEO side didn't really appeal to me, whereas the narrative side was something that I connected with a lot more.
Yeah, you sort of do see that divide when I think about our agency. We've got, I think, that the word side is not my side. We're the opposites.
Yeah.
I'm the numbers guy, 100%. Somebody says to me, "Can you write me a XYZ?" I'll be like, "Mike, can you write me?" That's Mike's in the next office. Everyone should have a Mike, or everyone should have a Ben, I guess.
That's why we work well together, right? Like I only work with numbers people because they need somebody like me.
Yeah. No, that's stick to your. It's one of those, isn't it? I think you stick to your lane, but the same respect. Have a good understanding of what good. Whether that's have somebody that's a trusted advisor or a team that are that other side of the business. Quite often when we talk about marketing a business, it is quite often numbers and content. That's a very crude analogy, but ultimately, there's content when we think about e-commerce stores, and there's understanding what is and isn't working, and that's usually down to looking into whether that's GA4 or looking at different dashboards to sort of interpret what is happening. But I think I want to get straight into it. AI. Are you worried, or any of your clients sort of worried around AI, or is it more a case of embracing it and running with it?
Well, I think it's definitely a case of embracing it and running with it because, I mean, no matter how you look at it, AI is going to be a part of digital marketing. It's going to be a part of content creation for forever, for the rest of the history of this business. So, yeah, I mean, you really only can embrace it. At the same time, yes, like there are some people should be very worried, people who are not trying to really improve their craft or people who are not trying to embrace it should be worried. Everyone else, I think, is okay. Of course, there's uncertainty. Like, we don't know where AI is going to go. We don't know what it's going to be like in 3 months. We don't know what it's going to be capable of. And I think, people are dealing with a lot of burnout because there's something new every day. Am I worried? I'm not particularly worried at this point because I personally am embracing it. And I think hopefully my quality of my content will continue to be better than that of AI's content. I personally think AI content will always be kind of the low bar because especially when we have free tools or tools for $20 a month like ChatGPT, everyone's going to be able to create this level of content, right? For almost no money. So as soon as that AI evolves, everyone's content is going to evolve up to this point. So we're always going to need, hopefully, people like me to take that level a little bit higher. Because the people who achieve that little bit higher level than what AI can do are going to see all of the benefits, all the conversions, and all the money.
Yeah, we talk about this. It's not our sort of terminology. It's from the PPC business, but unleveling the playing field. AI is sort of leveled, if you like, or leveling the playing field. And as has AI in PPC. A lot of automation in PPC for many, many years now. So then how do you unlevel the playing field? So everyone at the moment everyone's using GPT. They're running an eCom store. They're all selling, barbecues or whatever it is, 10 barbecue stores, all using GPT. So to then unlevel that playing field, it's obviously how you then use the tech stack, whether that's GPT or whatever you're going to use, and what subscriptions you're using and APIs you're pulling from, what prompts you're using, and so forth. Everyone's using them, so it's then using them and then using them again. Really the detail around how you use the tool, and then adding in, that layer of expertise like you and your business, where you're layering another 5, 10, 20, 30% of, and that's where I think, then I think, the sort of copywriting and content teams are going to come into their own again. Whereas I think there's this period at the moment where maybe a smidge of uncertainty around different, I came back from the conference where I met you, for example, and I was talking a lot about, GPT from the various talks and people that I'd met, and a few of my content team were like, so where does that leave us? I said, well, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for us. We're going to be able to produce more. We're going to be some of the stuff around the researching and the let's say the content guidelines and the content outlines and the briefs and things like that, where we spend a lot of time on. We can really speed that up, but we're still going to have a manual part to it. But we're really going to be able to speed that up. So our output per hour, day, or whatever is going to go up. We're going to have some of our roles may change to more of an editing role as opposed to a writing role, but we're still going to need writers and editors. But it's like that change, isn't it? We're in that transition sort of piece at the moment.
Exactly.
I just wanted to introduce you very quickly to our sponsors, Pricing. Now, Pricing is a competitive price tracking and monitoring software that can dynamically change a product's prices on all sales channels. They work with brands such as Samsung, Sony, Suzuki to increase their online revenue. Now, if you run Google Shopping, which I know a lot of you absolutely do, this software is absolutely key to accelerating profits. One of the reasons I recommend Pricing to my clients is because you can find out your competitors' pricing and stock availability all in one simple to understand dashboard, giving you a huge competitive advantage. Now, if you have any inquiries and questions about this software, or you're ready to get cracking, we have worked out a very, very special deal for our listeners where you can get a free month's trial and then 25% off for the first 3 months. Head to ecom1.com pricing and complete the inquiry form, and we will connect our listeners to the Pricing team. Right, let's head straight back to the episode. So, a lot of people, I think have maybe paid the $20. It's $20, isn't it? I think $20 a month for GBT. what's sort of some of the biggest issues you see with that at the moment? Where people are just sort of signing up, using GPT. What's the real sort of, maybe the ones that aren't getting much success with it. Why would you say that is?
Yeah, I think it's easy to convince yourself and to be convinced that that GPT is actually intelligent, and it's not, right? GPT essentially is like a kind of a glorified autofill. It's a predictive tool. So it doesn't really have any intelligence behind it. The intelligence has to come from the prompter. And I think that people kind of assume that ChatGPT is going to be able to do things without receiving detailed instructions. So that's really the biggest issue, and people get very frustrated because it can't do what they want it to do, but those people don't know how to instruct it to do what they want it to do. And what I say, as a content writer, people are trying to replace their content writers with ChatGPT without knowing how to write content. And I say, well, if you don't know content best practices, how are you going to prompt ChatGPT to give you good content when they say, oh, I can go get prompts from the internet? Okay, well, the internet doesn't know who your audience is. The internet doesn't know who your target market is, right? You're going to need somebody who knows those things in order to prompt correctly. So that's one of the biggest issues that I see, is just a lack of understanding of the tool itself and how to input information via prompting and get out what you want.
It's like the garbage in, garbage out scenario, isn't it? Really, with it.
It really is.
Like, well, what you get what you give type thing. Yeah. There's no sort of detail in there. It's just, I guess, in its most basic form. Write me a blog post on write me a 500-word blog post on barbecues. That's the worst prompt in the world.
Yeah. I liken it to like, imagine there's like you bought an actual robot with like arms and legs, right? And your robot can do any task, but it needs to be instructed, and you want your robot to build a house. Okay, who are you going to hire to give that robot instructions? Well, you would want to hire a contractor probably, right? Because that contractor understands how to build a house. It understands how to instruct your robot. But people instead are hiring a robot expert. But a robot expert doesn't know how to build a house. So it's similar with writing content with ChatGPT. Well, you need somebody working with you who understands good content to get the most out of this tool.
Yeah. I think that's you got to sort of hold on that bit for a moment, guys, because that's the reality. You can't just go and spend the $20 a month and expect to get something that is polished and and put it on your website and expect to get good, whether that's rankings or that's a sort of following, or whether that's to become an expert in the niche. You've got to polish it and have somebody there that is still spending that time on it, working on it. We have a team here that have just two guys I know have done sort of nearly 30 years as PRs, as editors, and so forth, and nothing goes out of this business that isn't checked, double checked, and then triple checked, sort of thing. So if you were to sort of list maybe three things, then our listeners, they're thinking, right, okay, let's experiment deeper and use ChatGPT as an example. Obviously there's other tech, but we'll focus on that. What are sort of maybe three tips around implementing content via ChatGPT? If we're to break down sort of three things to, rather than just a standard prompt that you'll put in, what are two or three things, well, three things that will help that output to be a lot stronger?
Well, I'll start by saying, like, as we said before, using GPT to outline and to do a little bit of research is great. Like, that can really, really speed you up because you can build a bunch of outlines. But what I also see is people kind of generating tons of outlines and not really editing them. You can get a really great initial outline from ChatGPT and then go in, refine the sections, add a couple more sections. And then you have a quick outline, takes you much less time than it would, but it's still tailored to your readers and to your market. So that's a good way to start. Once you have your outline, second tip, I would say, don't bulk generate, and even don't generate entire articles at a time. Generate section by section. So the shorter or the less content you generate at a time, the more control you're going to be able to have over that output. You're going to be able to give detailed instructions for each subheading and each and the content below, so that you're going to get more of what you want and have to do less editing at the end. So does it take a little bit more time to generate the article? Yes, but if you're doing it right, you need to edit it anyway, so this is going to save you time in the end. And finally, as the last tip, I would say to reuse your prompts. If you're creating content for one website, you're probably going to want to achieve some uniformity in your content, uniformity of tone, uniformity of style, or uniformity also of look and readability. So you're going to be able to reuse your prompts pretty easily. You need to put your content best practices into your prompts, things such as, word count, tone. You can say, for example, in the introduction, I like to say, ask a rhetorical question. You can tell it, use a joke in the lead-in. In the body, you can say, give a personal experience, something like that. Use metaphor. So you can build these things into your prompts and then just reuse them, kind of plug and place the topics or the products. Then because you have to edit your output anyway, this can help you to generate more quickly, still get those good content practices in there. And also it makes the process teachable. You can delegate it because your writers and editors don't need to create their own prompts every time.
I think there's a lot of great things there, but I think that sort of couple of things you said there around adding that tone, adding like maybe a rhetorical question, it's giving him that human element to it. Sounds like it has been written more likely by somebody that knows more about the industry, the topic, for example. But that humanizing piece, I think quite often the tones are off. When you look at a site and then that's maybe established, and you can see that they're this sort of brand, whether that's a serious outdoor camping brand, for example, for the serious adventurer, and then you go to their blog and it's maybe more of a comical feel. It's just an example, more of a comical feel. You think, well, that doesn't really match the tone and the brand that they're trying to attract, or they are. When you go to the videos of the guy that runs the business on socials, you think, well, that's not really. So quite often it's where they've missed a trick around the tone. So adding that tone, and they've obviously not checked it because it's not sounding like them. It's sounding like some robot potentially. So that tone piece, I think, is does quite often get missed. You got anything else to add on the tone side of things?
I just say tone is trust, right?
Yeah.
So if what I see is people's websites, they have especially people who are working with multiple writers, their articles have a different tone. And that's not a good thing. Also, if as you said, if you have a serious kind of business and your tone is kind of humorous, that's not going to appeal to your audience that well, right? Or if you're selling medical devices and you're using like humor in your content, like, okay, humor is great usually, but not always, right?
No.
And so, finding the right tone to match your target, that is what elicits trust from them.
Yeah.
And with ChatGPT, you can get it to achieve a certain tone, as close to the tone that you want as possible, which is great. But you still need to go in and tweak it to give it that humanness and that connection to your audience.
Yeah, all sorts bouncing through my head there. I think the guys that are listening in, they think, right, okay, we're going to embrace AI. And they're going to start playing with, let's say, various prompts, make it simple, various prompts, or adding in some of the things you've said. But I know, specifically you've trained different teams, and you've just launched a course not so long ago, on sort of training teams and on AI and editing. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, the course, and also any sort of tips on our listeners training their teams.
Yeah, sure. So the course is called the AI Copy Editing Crash Course. You can read all about it at aicopycrashcourse.com. And essentially, it's a step-by-step process to learn AI copy editing. So I take you through from a blank document to a completed article in a certain number of steps, and then I give a full over-the-shoulder demonstration of what it looks like to write an article and edit an article with ChatGPT. So that's the course in a nutshell. In terms of training teams, the course helps with that because, as I said before, the prompts are reusable, the steps are reusable. It's a very teachable process. And the predictability of the AI makes it great for delegation and for teaching a team. If you're going to use AI on your team, what I would recommend doing is creating that process, create a process. How do you generate an outline? Okay. And then make a document for that, teach that.
Yeah.
Next,
Teach them. Yeah.
this article style, these are the prompts that you use. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can even have, depending on your process, you can have somebody like a VA do that, because if your prompts are more static, then you don't really need somebody who's a professional to do that. Then you send that raw output to an editor, and that editor, who is a professional, is going to be able to fix that. So there are a number of ways that you can do it. But I think AI does give a lot of opportunities for building processes, repeatable processes, streamlining your processes.
Well, this is how we sort of met, really, because Ben was doing a talk at an SEO conference in Vietnam, and I was in the audience, and this is how we met. And really, Ben sort of caught my eye, if you like, when he talked about SOPs and writing, training and writing SOPs, and the different, as we're talking about different styles of blog or different styles of content, having an SOP, standard operating procedure, for that. And that's something, as a business, we're very big on here at the agencies, but it's something we talk about quite a lot on other podcasts that we've done over the years. Having, when you think about your eCom store, there's ways to do things when you've got new people coming in. It's a lot easier to show people and train people a certain way if you've got that documented, and if you're creating a lot of content, if you've got those SOPs documented. And as Ben said there, you building out an SOP, or you're modeling some of Ben's SOPs from his course, where you're then able to then teach somebody very quickly the way that we do it, So SOPs, something that I think if you're listening, and you're on your journey with your eCom store and you're looking to do that, you're doing $1 million, say, but you want to get to 10 million. You're not going to get to 10 million without standard operating procedures in certain areas of the business. That's where, in terms of our business, the sort of plateaus that we've hit over the years, if you like, when we've hit the 7 figures, etc., is the difference between, a 1-man band or a 5-man band. But when you've got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 employees, you can't expect them just to sort of figure stuff out. It's got to be documented how you want it, as just leaving yourself open for a lot of error. So, yeah, SOPs, that's how we met.
Yeah, and it's so important. And the more you grow, the more you need it, because it becomes harder as you grow, as you get more employees, especially more content creators, because content is creative. It's hard to control that process and to make it uniform, to streamline it. As you grow and you get more writers, you get more editors, it becomes harder to herd the creativity into a uniform channel. So it's something that everyone needs to think about if they want to pass those plateaus, if they want to break through those bottlenecks.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. So for those that say just want to get better at writing that are listening, that's me. That's me, although I'll probably stick to my numbers, to be fair, but I'll get somebody a lot smarter than me on the writing side. But for those that have a genuine interest in it, but they're maybe, they just want some guidance on how to become a better writer and a better content writer for their business or in their role, what advice would you give to them, some steps that they could take to just improve their writing, when it comes to their eCom store?
Yeah. I mean, of course, practice makes perfect, but at the core of copywriting or content writing is communicating. So I always say, stop writing this content that seems like everything else on the internet. Stop imitating, start communicating, because you're not trying to create something just like, Wirecutter, you're not trying to create something just like the other eCom store who's making a lot of money, because your target might be different from them. So you need to, every time you're writing, know that there's somebody on the other side of that screen who's reading, right? and that you're not actually writing about stats and figures and specs and things like that. You're actually talking to somebody, and you're making an argument. You're convincing them of something.
Yeah.
And some people find it very difficult to write because they don't know their target. So good content writing starts with impeccable market research and target research. Same thing, when you meet somebody for the first time, sometimes it's difficult to communicate with them, to talk to them, because you don't really know them, right? You don't know what their interests are. It's hard to kind of strike up a conversation. When you know somebody really well, the conversation flows really easily. You have lots of stuff to talk about. And you can also, maybe convince them to help you move because you know their motivations and things like that. So it's the same thing. When you know your target, that the content flows much more easily because you understand them. You understand their motivations, their fears, their needs. And so when you're thinking about writing about, say, a product, you know exactly what they would use this product for. You know the problems that this product would solve. And so I would say, that's where you start when you want to become a better writer, is you start with research, understanding your target, and focusing on that communicative aspect. Other things like tone, like readability, these are things that you can tweak over time.
Yeah, when you think about just having a genuine one-on-one conversation with an individual, and there's quite a deep sort of, you're listening, and you're not just sort of half listening and not really answering. You have a good conversation with somebody, about it, don't you? You think, this guy was really good. I really like this guy. I met this guy and he was really good at this, and we had a real good connection. But then when you transpose that to writing, it's a similar thing. Like, I think is what you're saying is, you've got a sort of picture, and you've done the research on this individual that, you understand them, you're listening, and you've researched that individual, and that persona, I guess, is what we're talking about. Certainly that, if we're going back to a previous episode I did earlier today, we were talking about an industry I know very well, the company knows very well, which is sort of really hardcore outdoor adventurers. Now, when they're buying their equipment, they're not looking for, a cheap coat, a cheap rain jacket. They want to know the insides out of that rain jacket, the detail. Is it good for summer? Is it good for winter as well? Is it, how long is it going to last? Is it two layer, 3 layer, 4 layer? What pockets? What, but so when you're explaining it, they actually do want the detail. They want the really geeky detail. Where if you just say, this is a black coat, it's extra large, it's in black, it's like, well, no hardcore adventurer is going to buy that jacket, that coat, without the detail, the real technical element of that description, or a deep understanding of, this is great for certain types of mountaineering, as opposed to just going camping with the kids. That's a whole different sort of understanding. Yeah. So spending that time to understand those people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a type of target market that really wants that information. Whereas if that rain jacket is being sold by, a shop on the high street, or, H&M or something, or even a luxury brand, then it's going to be much more about the style, much more about the prestige, than whether the jacket is going to help you survive, a 7-day hike.
Yeah.
And so you could use that strategy, saying, it's really high quality, it's got lots of pockets, it's going to keep you dry. And that target who's wearing it to their office every day and wants to look really nice, they're going to say, I don't want this one. I'm going to buy this other one that says I'm going to, it's going to make me look successful.
And when you think about that as well, it's like, that's where the value comes from in terms of a good copywriter and a good writer, because you're able to then, you're selling ultimately, or you're helping to sell. It depends where you are in the buyer journey, but ultimately our listeners are trying to sell at some point, really, a physical item via their store. And if it's just a very basic overview, or it's extremely detailed, extremely honed to that tone and that persona of your buyer, you're going to sell more stuff. It's quite that simple.
And a good copywriter can take that good research and turn it into something that's really, really converts. And to bring it full circle, that comes back to ChatGPT, right? Like, communicating that information to your copywriter is how they do a good job, right? If you don't communicate the right information to your copywriter, then they can't do a good job. And the same way that you're kind of prompting the AI, if you're giving the AI good information, not target research, don't give target research to the AI, but good information about exactly what you want it to do, then you're going to get as well much better output.
Yeah. So I think it would be good if you could step through maybe a project that you've worked on around content, what you did. I know it sometimes can be difficult to say company names and things like that because of, various NDAs and whatnot. But when we think about, a store maybe or a company that you worked on in the last maybe 6 months or so, the sort of strategy and implementation and result that you got from a content strategy been implemented.
Yeah, actually, I can give you an example. I worked for, I did a crowdfunding campaign a while back for a rain jacket, actually. As interestingly enough. And so crowdfunding is very interesting, especially in the world of, of sales and e-com and direct marketing, because you design the campaign, you create the content, and then you see kind of immediately, you can see the sales coming in. Yeah. You can see the effectiveness of the copy, because the copy is that page, that crowdfunding page is the gateway, right? You can drive traffic there, but that's the thing that converts right there. And so you can see the effectiveness, you can tweak things, you can watch it go up or down. And it's only 30 or 60 days, so it's interesting. But we designed a page for this, year-round rain jacket. And we built it around our target, the persona that we'd built. And it's kind of hard because you don't have a lot of opportunity to do target research or really specific target research before you launch the product. You can put your feelers out and start to generate hype. But really, it's crunch time just on launch day. So we built a persona. We built a page based around what we thought would be the best influencing content, which involves on Kickstarter and on crowdfunding, is always a combination of the benefits of the product and also novelty, right? Because people feel like, they're a kid on Christmas when they go on to Kickstarter. They're getting something new. They're getting something special. Yeah. And these are the sorts of things that you kind of like, okay, what's special about this target, this Kickstarter audience, So we built the page. I also work on the scripts. I work on consulting for the flow of the page, how the images look, how everything feels, readability, things like that. And we launched and we made over $3 million on this product. It was one of the highest best funded projects of the year on Kickstarter.
Are you on a percentage? Do you get a percentage of sales?
Unfortunately, no. No. Yeah.
Oh, Ben, you missed a trick.
I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here right now if I got a percentage.
Ben, what's happened? Where's Ben gone?
I'd be on the beach right now. But yeah, no. But yeah, this was a company that I worked for a while, and unfortunately, no percentage. But
yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do that type of content, to learn about that, and really helps you, especially in e-com writing. I write for Shopify stores and things like that now, and in terms of understanding the way that people react to new products and how to communicate with them, it's fun.
That's quite a tough. Kickstarter. I don't think I've actually ever bought anything from there, but I've spent hours look at this new thing, and you just get lost in. It's like Facebook Marketplace. You go there for 5 minutes, and then 3 hours later, you're still on there looking at some random gadget for your desk that you've never thought of. But yeah, there's such cool stuff on there, isn't there? But obviously, it's a tough gig. Not every Kickstarter campaign, obviously, nowhere near is anywhere near that successful or even hits there, because they set a target down there and you have to hit the target to get funded or something. Is that how it works? Yeah. It's not. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know a few sort of clients and friends have done various Kickstarters over the years, and a good friend of mine, an old friend of mine, ran a few on there for a nutrition sort of brand. And I know he raised several. It wasn't that in the oil level, but it was in. I think he raised out $500,000 over a couple, which was quite a UK. Which was good. But again, I know he's a very good copywriter and he's very creative mind, very smart guy. Obviously, you've got to stand out on that platform like any, you're an e-com store. And let's be realistic. You can launch an e-com store in a morning that's going to look half decent, That's the reality of the tech that's out there, and it's going to look pretty good. But obviously, content and SEO, for example, they go hand in hand. You can't really do SEO. I mean, that's a bit controversial, but on an ecom store, there's a lot of technical stuff you can do. There's a lot of stuff on the front end, but then ultimately you've got thousands and thousands of SKUs, usually 10,000, 50,000, or even 500. That's a lot of copy that you can make better than anybody else's. A lot of time, a lot of time can be spent on that copy. The difference between being the one store that's got really good, great, on tone, on message copy, as opposed to the other 95% of people that have just copied it from the the manufacturer catalog or the CSV import file. The difference is just night and day in terms of the way it's going to read to the user, which is firstly the most important thing, but then that transcends into the SEO benefit when Google's having to decide who to rank, and you've got 9 sites that are identical, or you've got the site that spent the time on the copy. That's usually where. Do you have like a formula in terms of, so let's say, you've got, make the maths easy, you've got 1,000 SKUs on the website, 1,000 products. Obviously, to sit and write 1,000 product descriptions, that's a task. That's some brain ache right there. Of course, that may be done. Have you got do you usually start with the top 2% in terms of like turnover, or how do you sort of start with sort of big catalogs of products?
Yeah, I mean, you want to go with your, if you're converting already, you want to take the pages that are converting the best, right? Obviously, and then you want to hone that content, because really it's a numbers game, right? So as you're saying, good content versus kind of low effort content. If your SEO is really good, that you're going to convert a certain percentage just because of visibility, but if you have good content, then you can convert much more. Could be the difference between 5 figures and 7 figures. But if you're already converting, then which of your products already have the highest demand, and then put your effort into those that have the highest demand so that you can convert better. But really, I mean, you should be working your way through your catalog to try to optimize all of your product descriptions. You want, because as soon as you start doing it, as soon as you hire a copywriter, like all of a sudden, you do your top 10 in, let's say, 2 weeks, your top 10 and then your 11 to 20 are now going to be really different. They're going to have a different tone, right? They're going to have a different readability, different feel. So you certainly want to develop a good relationship with a good copywriter. Aim for a long-term relationship, because that copywriter is going to be the voice of your website. And then start with your highest converting products and then move down the list. If you're not converting, if you have a new website, then really market research, product research, target research, that's going to identify, and even, keyword research is going to identify those products that you should prioritize.
Yeah. No, love it. So last couple of questions, Ben. So with sort of crystal ball time, really, we're sat here in 12 months' time. What should our listeners be thinking about, and what do you believe the focus should be in the next 12 months? E-commerce store owner, marketeer that is looking to get a real head start this next 12 months. What should they be focusing on?
Well, I would say, of course, in light of this recent Google update, what the best thing you can do for your content is to be genuine and be genuinely helpful, right? So what does that mean in terms of AI? It means that you need to combine the efficiency and speed of AI with good content practices, human edits, and that real experience that connects with your target, right? I think that the people that are going to succeed, there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, I'm waiting for GPT-5, and GPT-5 will probably come soon, but GPT-5 is essentially going to be the same tool as GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. Again, it's going to rely on the quality of the input to produce quality output. And so I think people now who are like, hey, I want to invest in good content. I want to learn how to create content with AI and also, hire someone or learn myself best copywriting practices, develop a AI copy editing strategy, develop these SOPs so that I can speed up my production and increase my quality. And And I want to also stress, the AI does not have a concept of experience, and it does not have a concept of your target market's experience, and that's what Google wants. We know EEAT, expertise, experience. That's the same thing, really, right?
Yeah.
And I believe, expertise is your expertise, the writer's expertise, but experience is connecting with the reader's experience, right? That's communication. ChatGPT cannot do that. So I think, leveraging ChatGPT for the speed, AI for the speed, for, planning, for research, for outlining, and then, before it's too late, building these processes into your business, where you're combining that human element with the efficiency of AI. That's going to be how, you kind of get to the next level. Because then the next GPTs that release, you don't have to refine those processes. It's just going to get better. You just say, oh, now we're using a better model.
Yeah, you're getting better outlines, you're getting better outputs, yeah. Well, thank you for that, Ben. I like to finish every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners and viewers?
Yes, I do. I personally, I don't read a lot of content marketing books. But one book that I really like that kind of I think about a lot, even when I'm working, is called The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, no.
It's an award winner. It's about the Vietnam War, but it's kind of like a semi-fictional book because the author was drafted into the war, and it kind of questions the line between truth and fiction, fact and fiction. And it asks the question, what's more important, the words on the page or the response that those words evoke from the reader? And I think that that's a really interesting thing to think about in terms of fiction, but also in terms of marketing, and content marketing. It's also just a really hard-hitting book, emotional, and I would highly recommend it.
That does sound great. We'll get that added to the show notes, and we'll get that ordered for ourselves as well. But thank you, Ben, for coming on. Thank you for that. For those that want to find out, no worries at all. Those that want to find out more about you, more about the course, what's the best way to do that?
All right. You can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to shoot me a message. I do consultations, and maybe at some point in the future, I'll be open to take on copywriting clients. If you're interested in my course, it's the website is aicopycrashcourse.com, and I've also got a promotion running to celebrate Chiang Mai SEO conference, which we will both be attending in a couple of weeks. So if you go to aicopycrashcourse.com and purchase the course, use the code CMSEO for 20% off. The course is, it's not a massive course. If you listen to it on 1.5 times, you can watch it over your lunch break and start implementing the processes immediately. So there's a lot of actionable stuff in there.
And it's CMSEO for the 20% discount there. Yeah. Well, I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Definitely.
So if you're listening to this episode and it's just gone live, I will be probably sharing a beer with Ben in Chiang Mai talking about his copy. So thank you for coming on the show, Ben.
Yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. So you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.